Okay, well, Rob, could you help Samuel, please? Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day number 5 of our employment planning workshop. This is now part 2. Part 1 of our employment planning workshop is the Larson Proactive Employment Plan. And who can tell me what that means?
It means find the exact place where you want to work and you create a plan.
Right. So most people take a reactive approach. Find a place that's hiring and convince them to hire you. Okay, the proactive plan is find the place that you want and give them reasons why they should hire you. And so last week we spent building the tools to help us get there, the cloud-based tools, which were what? Ed, what was one tool?
Maps.
Maps. Jim, what's another tool? Drive. Israel.
We had
Calendar. Okay, good. Those are the 3 big ones that we use to do that. And then, of course, we would use our Gmail account in the future, and then Voice in the future, and some of the other Google Cloud apps. But for last week, we got the tools set up, so we have a calendar for employment planning. We have our Drive set up with the folder and several subfolders. We have a map set up with 3 layers, and now we just have to go to the next step, which is part 2. Part 2 is your resume and the interview. That's what we're going to be spending this week on. We don't have a video for today.
Oh, we don't?
No, we don't. Okay, we don't have a video for today. Sorry to disappoint everyone. So, welcome to my world. Okay, so the key thing this week is the resume, or today is the resume. And I have posted, for those people who don't have it, the sample Larson resume. We're going to spend today talking about that. Okay, 1 second. So I have posted that. For people in Santa Fe Springs and in Long Beach, it is available on your, I think you should be able to get it on Google Plus, just posted there. But otherwise, it is an open class in the employment planning class or resume workshop class in the doc sharing part. Okay? So I'm going to give an overview, and then I'm going to talk about the resume that we use. The overview is that in today's world, most people get hired because they submitted a resume. The employer, in effect, says, I'm hiring people, but I want to know something about you before I meet you. The resume, thus, has to be good enough to get them to want to meet you. And here, the most important thing is the resume has to be perfect. So let's do some numbers. Let's say it's a good employer. Okay, it's a place that you would have listed as a calling or destiny job. They're looking for somebody. It is not uncommon at all for 500 resumes to be submitted. Not uncommon at all. Now, let's say they spent a minute reading your resume. How good of a job are they going to do reading your resume, Tony? If they spend 1 minute.
Well, they scan it.
No, but I'm asking if they spend 1 minute, how good are they going to do?
Not so.
Not so good, right. But let's say they spend 1 minute and they have 500 resumes. How many minutes is that going to take? Is Fernando there in California?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, so Fernando, how many minutes are they going to spend if they spend 1 minute and they go through 500 resumes? How many minutes?
500 minutes.
He said 500 minutes.
500 minutes, good. They're going to spend 500 minutes. Now, how many hours is 500 minutes?
8.5. 8.5.
Close. I think it's 8 1/3. 8 hours and 20 minutes. But yeah, let's just say it's 8 hours. Are they going to really want to spend 8 hours separating 500 resumes?
No.
No. How long are they going to want to spend? an hour or 2 hours. So that literally means they're going to take your resume, they're going to hold it up, they're going to take the resume, look at it. If it doesn't look good, it's going to go in this pile here of no. If it looks good, they're going to put it over here in this pile of maybe. And there could theoretically be a third pile of absolutely. You know, we want to look at this one, absolutely. They already know how many people they want to interview before they start reading the resumes. You know, we're going to go through the resumes. Let's allocate a day to interview the 10 people, and then maybe we'll have a second interview for some people we really like. Yes, Jamie.
If you got a good cover letter and possibly YouTube video attached to it, that's going to assure you that you're going to be put in that stack of typical.
Well, it's going to assure that you're not going to be in the nope stack. Okay, if your resume is perfect, it looks great. When they hold it up and they're looking at it for 2 seconds, if it looks great, you have a high probability it's not going to end up in the no pile.
Don't the cover letter help that too?
No, because they're not going to spend a lot of time looking at that. Okay, they're going to spend seconds deciding no or maybe, no, maybe, and then they might have a pile that's yes. And let's say on that pile, the person's name, it says Bonnie Sandoval, and then below it says yes, the governor is my dad. Okay, that's going to go in the yes pile. Okay, they're going to read that one. Okay, but anyone else, it's probably going to be no and maybe. Maybe we want to read it. No, we don't. And there's some exceptions where there could be yes.
So I'm thinking when they're going over it, there's a specific section that they look at all the time.
No.
In order to go by real quick.
They're just looking at how it looks.
Not on first
That's how it looks.
Okay, if it looks like you don't know how to type,
Everything's filled out.
yeah. If it's, let's say it's, you've got different fonts that are radically different. Not like going from Times Roman to Palatino. This is like going from Comic Sans, something really goofy, to something strange. You're going to say, no, this is not our person. If you have a lot of weird colors or you have a weird background that your resume is on.
Should have went to Shay's place.
Maybe. Okay? So it's just going to be a quick, and they're judging it by the covers. Well, the problem with that is they already know some really good person isn't even going to be considered because that person didn't make it look good, didn't pass the does it look good test. But they say, we're only hiring 1 or 2 people. So we're hiring 1 person. Okay, well, we didn't get the best person, but maybe they're really not the best person because if you can't do your resume to make it look right, you probably aren't really the best person.
Don't take the time.
You might have the best personality. We're not just hiring for the best personality. We need people to be able to do paperwork too.
Even if you have experience.
They might say that.
I mean, look at that.
If you can't get the fundamental thing, if you're reading resumes, looking at this stuff all day long, your brain gets to the point of, if people can't do their resume right, they don't care. Yes, Joanne.
In addition to that, though, I've talked with HR directors before, and they want to also look at the key words if you're
Okay, that's in round 2.
Yeah,
right.
Okay, we're just on round 1. We're just on round 1 of the 1 or 2 second glance. Okay, so are there any questions or comments from California?
No.
Okay, so we're all tracking. Good. So the point is, you have to make your resume perfect. There's no excuse not to. And you have plenty of time here. When you're done with your word lessons, you should be working on your resume. It needs to look perfect. And just think in terms of, just pretend you're somebody, take your resume, have it face down on the table, flip it up in front of your face, put it down, and say, did that look good? If you're not sure, then you probably need to look at it again. because that's what they're doing basically. I mean, they're spending a little bit more time than this, but if you can make it look good, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, boom. If your resume looks good by doing that, then you have a chance of getting to the maybe pile. And they might say, okay, we're going to get 500 resumes, let's look at 50 of them. Or they might say, we're going to get 500 resumes, let's not look at more than 100 of them. We don't want to limit it to 50 because, you know, okay, here's 48, 49, 50. Oh, I still have 200 resumes left that I haven't even looked at. I'm not going to throw those away, right? So they're more likely to say, let's not do more than 100 out of the 500. But you know what? If you only get 10, don't stretch it to 100. This is what the boss of the HR person is saying to the HR person, or what they're saying to themselves. You know, I have this amount of time. I'm going to spend my day before lunch getting it down to not more than 100 resumes. Or I need at least 50, something like that. Come to some number of the maybe pile. And then they might say, so then after lunch, the next couple hours, what I'm going to get done by the end of the day is I'm going to take the maybe pile and turn it into I want to interview these people. Now, for the people in California, on Thursday, we have somebody coming in to talk. This person works at Wyndham Resorts, and he's in the HR department. So he's going to be talking to us about how they do it at Wyndham and the opportunity for people at Larson to get employment at Wyndham.
That's a big hotel.
Wyndham is the largest hotel chain in the world.
Corporation.
Oh, cool.
They have more hotel rooms, but in Las Vegas they have 5 timeshares. And so they need a lot of different people. One is people on the phones, another one is people, I think they call them greeters or something. They've got a number of positions, front desk clerks, no food though. They don't do food at their places.
Make good money, I got to
Okay. So anyway, the point is somebody will be coming in from Wyndham on Thursday, and they'll talk about how they do the process. We're just saying for our purposes at Larson and the Proactive Plan, assume it's a calling or destiny company, assume that there's going to be 500 resumes, and assume that they're going to spend a few seconds looking at your resume the first pass through. And then the second time they're going to read your resume. Now when they read your resume, this is the part where what you say becomes important. And we have some stuff that we'll talk about tomorrow, keywords to put in your thing. Today, what I tell you is the keyword, one keyword that needs to be in your resume is, maybe it's 2 words, but maybe it's with the hyphen, so it's only 1 word. Cloud apps. Okay? Okay, you need to talk about the cloud. Here's another word. So I'm going to write these down.
These are in the template you gave us, right? The Larson.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're in the template, yeah. Okay, so one word is cloud. Now you might say the cloud, or you might say cloud apps. And remember what Dan Dennett said. Every time you say it or write it, every time you say it or read it, you do what? You make another copy in your brain. Okay? So it's not bad to have the word cloud in your resume more than once. And if you have it in there more than once, though, it would be good to say the cloud in one case or cloud apps in the other case. So another word to have is competent. And I would say competent, not proficient.
Right.
Okay? The hackneyed word, the word that's overused, is proficient. And so sometimes HR people are looking for a word But if everybody's using the word, does the word have value? It loses value when everybody's doing it. But so for us, the reason I say competent is because you want to have closely near that word somewhere is the word confident. Okay? You are competent with the cloud. Or you're competent in Microsoft Word, or you're competent in something. But at Larson, we want you to become competent and confident. Because,
Confident, but confidence next to it, or confident?
well, you are competent in these skills. The confidence part comes in because part of selling yourself on the employer is to sell the employer on the fact that you can bring the cloud to their business. Because is there a lot of value to an employer about the cloud if they don't care about the cloud?
No.
Right. So you might have to assume the employer, you should assume the employer has heard of the cloud. But you should also know from having been here that they probably don't know how to use the cloud. You know how to use the cloud, and you should be competent in the cloud. You will be competent unless you go out of your way to not. You'll be competent in the cloud. Confidence is making them feel that you can bring the cloud to their business. So, and confidence is also getting them to understand they need the cloud. Okay, let's say, what's a business that somebody in California can think of where they say, I don't need the cloud in California. Here, be thinking of something here, but don't say it. In California, think of a business where they would say, I don't need the cloud for my business. You got one, Victoria?
Sure.
What? Which one? What is it?
Dog sitting.
Dog sitting.
Dog babysitting. Babysitting dogs.
Oh, dog babysitting. Okay. Well, you know what? There happens to be a dog babysitting thing right here that Tony Shea funded in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
which is 1 block from here. I park right there every morning, and I oftentimes once a week talk to the lady who runs it. And that would be a perfect example of somebody who says, I don't need the cloud, but they're wrong. That would be the perfect opportunity to tell them, convince them why they need the cloud. And if you convince them, if you're confident, and you convince them that you know the cloud and that you can bring the cloud to their business, they're going to hire you.
There isn't any business that
No,
doesn't fit
I
into
can't
that
think of one.
scenario. If it's a
Well,
business,
If it's a business that
Besides
needs
prison.
customers,
Besides persons, do they get their customers?
that's
all I heard.
Smart, Jamie, that's right.
That's all I can think of.
that's not a business. Well, it's sort of. I guess it is a business. Well, but here's where they do want a business. So the deputy director over at Casa Grande, his job is what? What is he responsible for?
The director.
The deputy director or assistant director that's over there. What's his real job in the prison? His real job is prison industries.
The business part.
Selling the beds and all of the embroidery stuff and the woodworking stuff. Could they use the cloud?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Heck yes.
Actually, you're probably right there, because when I first came to town, I worked for a block company, and they had the inmates in Indian Springs repair the pallets for them. I guess there's a couple other
Okay,
businesses do
so that would be another. Okay, so let's go back to what we're doing here today. So we want so here are 2 other words: competent and confident. You're competent in the skills, and you're confident in your ability to convince your interviewer that you're competent. But you're also confident in your ability to bring the cloud to that business. And I will tell you, if you persuade them of those 2 things, 1, they need the cloud, and 2, you can bring it, they're going to hire you. Unless there's somebody who can do that better than you. But if there's somebody who can do that better than you, then you're not going to have to convince them that they need the cloud. They're already going to say, yeah, I do need the cloud. And so it's going to become very aware. So the cloud, confident, competent, and the other set of words are make money.
Well, by bringing the cloud to them, you can show them how, by bringing the cloud to them, you can make them more save them money. You
That's the point. But we're talking about, now that they have your resume, right? We're talking about they have your resume. This is the second wave through. This is after lunch. They're going to read them. And as Joanne said, they look for keywords. Here's what you need to know. If everybody uses the same keywords, they don't have the same value. Okay? It's like if everybody goes and buys the best car, and everybody's driving around the same model, same color of a car, nobody's car is special anymore.
Valuable asset. Everybody says that.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I know a lot of people that
Okay. So don't feel you have to use words just because everybody else uses them. I don't want you to use the word proficient. Use competent. But closely related to that, have confidence. Because competence, without confidence, it doesn't have the same value. That's okay. We'll come back to that. So the second wave through, they're going to be reading your resume. If you sent it in electronically, assume they're going to push the button to see how you formatted it, to see if you really know how to use Microsoft Office. Okay? If you don't know how to use Microsoft Office and you have to fudge it, save your document as an Adobe PDF. Why?
Because they can't check it.
Right, they can't check your formatting.
Adobe PDF or Adobe.
Dobie Gillis.
He doesn't know who that is.
You don't know who Dobie Gillis was?
No, but that's
Oh.
I know.
well, yeah, you got to be like 60.
Well, I'm not 60. Okay, no fighting.
I concur.
Okay, so if you don't know how to do Word, save it as a PDF. I think it stands for a PostScript document format. Do you know what it stands for? Okay. Can always baffle them. Common sense and reason don't work, just baffle them. Okay, so, but I don't advise anyone else here to do that. Okay, so make money, save money. These need to be on there. And so we have a particular format for our resume. Why? Well, a practical reason is we can't spend time telling everybody how to do the resume format they want. Okay? And a resume format is sort of like, you know, answering the question, what's the best resume format, is like asking, what's the best way to cook an egg? There is no best way, right? It all depends on the circumstances. So our resume is what we think is the best format for resume right now because it gets the important things out. It looks enough like a standard resume that people are going to feel comfortable with it, but it highlights key important information very quickly. And we have had a number of students come back and say when they went to their interview, the interviewer commented to them on the resume. A lot of resumes are written that you might have been introduced to are written for people who don't have a lot to say on their resume. Don't get confused thinking that's a good resume. You know, if you are a Nobel Prize winner, the format of your resume is going to be a lot different than if you're somebody who's like Brad Stovall, who spent 25 years in prison. If you're a guy who's spent a lot of time in prison and you don't have a lot to say, you got to make it look like you have something to say, right? If you're a Nobel Prize winner, you really don't need to put more than, I won the Nobel Prize in this year, right? You really don't need to put that more than that on there. So a lot of the resume formats that our students are introduced to are designed for people who don't have a lot to put on a resume. Our resume format is not like that. Our resume format is to accentuate things that you learn here, because the things you learn here are important for employers. You might have to articulate that. In fact, you want to be the one articulating. You have a much better chance of getting a position at a company that's not using the web but wants to move to the web than somebody who already uses the web. Yes, Mary?
Your format doesn't, do you have employment gaps? Or
If you do have employment
does it help
gaps,
that, or does
Well, like us.
well, you just put down the employment you have had and be prepared to explain it. If they like what they read, they're going to want to meet you. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead now to the interview part to make more sense of the resume part. What's the purpose of the interview?
Really.
Why don't they just hire you based on the resume?
So that, yeah, so they can actually meet you and see if you're confident, and if they can go back on your resume.
Well, they have your
if you lied
resume.
about it, or
If you lied, yeah.
if you know what you're talking about.
They're testing a primary purpose of the interview.
Yeah.
Because they know that there are people out there who just write resumes for other people. Okay? So a fundamental part of the resume is, are you really the person who sent this resume? The resume has to look good enough to get you invited to an interview. And if you are that person, you're at least in the final consideration for somebody for that job. But the purpose of the interview is, are you the person? The primary purpose is, are you that person? Your resume should be written well enough that they have an idea of whether you're the right person for the job. And if they have somebody in HR who knows what they're doing, has experience, they should be able to tell from your resume whether you are a fit. Right? Let's say you're at Zappos and you're looking for people who are just a little bit weird. Put yourself, pretend you're that person. You're the HR person at Zappos. You're looking for people who are a little bit weird. If I said to you, their resume should be able to indicate whether they're a little bit weird. Don't you think you can say, yeah, I think so. Somebody's a little bit weird. I think I can get a flavor of that, especially if they did their homework and they know we're looking for people who are a little bit weird. Anybody whose resume I see that's not a little bit weird, I'm going to say this person isn't a fit. Right? Wouldn't you expect, if you're in HR at Zappos and they say, we're looking for people who are a little bit weird, anybody who is the right person for the job, who's done their research, shouldn't they already know that fact?
Yeah.
And if they know that fact, shouldn't their resume include things to point that out?
When I was researching that, that was one of my interests. It seems like people do a lot of video resumes. What's the deal with that now?
Okay. So I think that is the thing, and we attempted to do this in Long Beach, of having everybody do a 3-minute video interview. And it's a great idea.
Some of them, serious productions.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to, how badly do you want this position?
The editing and everything.
Yeah. So that is going to be more the future. And for the whole downtown project, if you want to get funding or be part of the downtown project, they expect you're going to submit a video.
Yeah, they have some of those too.
Okay? They expect that. That's more of the future. And if you're in a place like Zappos, where it's an internet-based company, the more competent you are with the internet, the higher the probability of getting a position. Our project in Long Beach of doing this 3-minute interview on tape only didn't work because we didn't have the person who could sit with the students doing it. Right, Stephanie?
Are they there?
Yeah, she's there. They mute their phone. Well, maybe Stephanie's not there. So, yes, Mary?
you're talking about Zappos. You know, for every position, they do a credit check.
I don't know if they do a credit check.
I do. But the reason it didn't seem like they did.
A lot of companies like Wyndham does a background check.
Does it include the credit check?
I don't know. Okay, Rob says yes, probably.
Depends on the position, doesn't it?
I would think it depends on the position. If you're handling credit card, money things, probably. But let's go back to our thing. So your resume, it has to be perfect. Now we're in the stage of they're going to read it. It has to be compelling. If you're not an interesting person, why should they hire you? Okay, but that gets that away from being a calling or destiny position. Okay, so
Ain't that a lot of part on how you sell yourself in the interview?
well, you need to get to the interview. You do the interview after they like your resume. Okay, if you don't sell yourself in the resume, you're not going to get to the interview. And this is where most people go wrong when they're describing their past jobs, is they don't talk about what they've accomplished. They talk about what they did. I worked at this company, I drove a forklift for 5 years. They don't talk about anything that they accomplished. Okay, and this is where you have to spend some time thinking about how do you make that look good. And one thing I could say is you could pretend you're at your kids, pretend you have a kid who's in the second grade. You have a kid who's in the second grade, and you have to go talk to their class about here's what my dad does. Okay, you want it to be interesting, right? You don't want to go into your kid's class and say something that's not interesting. Okay, so you need to make it interesting. Don't just give them the facts. It has to be interesting. Another thing you can think of, if you can't imagine what it would be like going into a second grade class and saying, here's what I do, here's what my dad does. If you can't figure out how to make that interesting, imagine that you're at some kind of a party and people are going to go around saying, what do you do? And you don't want to become the guy that's avoided because people find out, you know, you do something really boring. Any work, what did Ashton Kutcher say about jobs?
Looks like
Never
we're-
too good for any
He
job.
was never better than any job he had.
It's just an opportunity, that's stepping stone or an opportunity for the next job.
Okay?
They always had the next job. before you.
Right? So if you think that your work history has no value, you need to turn it into something that does have value, because otherwise what you're saying to employers is don't hire me. You can't say I want a job but don't hire me at the same time. Right?
That's not right.
It looks like you're confused, Jamie.
No, I'm just trying to figure out how, I don't know.
Okay, so you need to think in terms of how do I make what I do interesting to the people I want to work for? So let's say you did have a job driving a forklift, but you really now want to be a cook in a kitchen.
So that's what I wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, that's-
Well, so based upon our discussion of early this morning, I would start out by saying, I want to be a dishwasher in the kitchen. Okay, because I want to get a job there. And if I'm good, I will get promoted.
I'm good at this. I just want to do it.
Well, sometimes we have to start at positions we don't want. Okay?
I'm going to go back to the forklift. I really like that.
Well, are you willing to invest 6 months of your life to go from lower level to higher level?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how you should look at it. Being a dishwasher is an investment so that they can see how good you are and promote you.
Now we're going to go, that's probably what I'm going to have to do if I'm going to get the culinary.
Okay, so 1 second before we go on Sam. So instead of, if you really want to be a cook in a restaurant that you like, but you're competing with people with a lot more cooking experience, you might say, well, I just want to get a position there so I can prove myself. I'll start as dishwasher. Anybody see the movie Ratatouille?
Yes.
Okay. Start as the rat. Okay. Don't start as the chef. And then you figure out, well, how can I now tie the skills I learned as a forklift operator to be beneficial for washing dishes?
Thank you.
So you get them to say, well, if this guy could be doing that job, he had this job driving a forklift at this place, well, those skills are much better than the skills for being a dishwasher. And so what he learned over there, yeah, he's more than qualified to be a dishwasher here.
See, that's
So
what
you
I
need to draw that, connect those dots.
That's what my question was going to be. It confuses me because I'm always thinking that on my resume,
Speak up so they can hear
the
you in
job
California.
that I'm going for,
Yeah.
that I should put specifically what I've done, you know,
Okay,
in the
so
past about that.
okay, so a lot of people say your resume should have your career objective on it. Tiger Todd said something about that when he came in the first time. So in that case, like let's say for Jamie, if I wanted to be a cook but I didn't really have experience in a cook and I found this great place to work, I might say something like, my ultimate objective is to be a cook in a restaurant like yours, in a 5-star restaurant or a family restaurant, whatever it is. My ultimate objective is to do that. But make it clear, right now, I'm just trying to be the dishwasher. Now they're thinking in terms of, okay, well, we've got somebody who's willing to work their way up to prove themselves. They're willing to start at the bottom. If this guy has talent, he can be here, he can learn our culture. Maybe this is somebody who will be here in 10 years. As opposed to somebody who's a hotshot that is using this job as a stepping stone to get to a different place. He really wants to work for Gordon Ramsay, but he'll come work over here because Gordon Ramsay won't hire him right now. He's not going to stay here. He's using us to get to the next
I
place.
understand what you're saying now.
Okay? Yes, Mary?
In regards to the objective, I heard now that they're being replaced by the branding statement.
Okay, what does that mean?
You never heard the branding statement?
Well, what is that? I've heard of branding statements, but what does that mean?
I don't know. That's why I mean, what's the difference between the branding statement and the objective?
Well, okay, so there is this thing of people who write pop culture books. You have to write something different than people before you, right? Because if you write the same thing, nobody's going to buy it. If you're saying the same thing everybody else is saying, there's no reason to buy that. You have to say something different. So I think a branding statement is just another way of saying, I need to put something on my resume that's compelling to the people who might hire me. I have to give them reasons to hire me.
So that's not an absolute vacant branding statement.
I don't, it doesn't really matter. The people who are looking to hire people, they're not looking for anybody different than they've always been looking for, which is the best person for the job. All employers always are looking for the best person for the job. They might not be good at finding the best people. They might be not be good at keeping the best people, but they're always trying to find the best people. So employers aren't looking for anything different. They're not saying now, oh, we don't want people who put a good branding statement on them. They're saying we want the best people. That has not changed. It hasn't changed from the beginning of voluntary employment. Okay, that has not changed ever. So you need to give them reasons why they should hire you. So step one, figure they're going to take a few seconds to look at your resume. You want to be in the pile of maybe. When you get to the maybe pile and they're actually going to read it, it needs to be compelling. So you need to think of reasons why. And what I would say is don't overreach. It's better to get a job at a good company and work your way up than to take the position of I'm too good for that job.
So did I hear you say that, so in the objective, my ultimate objective is to bring my supervisory skills and blah, 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 you know.
I wouldn't say supervisory skills. I'd say to be a supervisor.
Okay, for internal customer affairs, because that's what that is.
And have it in plain English.
But today, for today's purposes, I'm looking forward to the, challenge of working with whatever, right?
But you might not need to put the but for today because you applied for a lower job.
And you can explain that.
You applied for, let's say, a job as a maid. You applied for maid. But when they look at this thing of what do you want to be, you say, well, ultimately, I want to be head housekeeper. You don't need to say, but I'm applying for maid. Because they already know you're already applying for maid.
All right.
But if you put in there, I ultimately want to be the head housekeeper, overseeing a staff of 20 maids. Now they're thinking, okay, this is a person who might be
She at
somebody.
least has experience to clean.
She's willing to start at the bottom. She wants to be ambitious. Companies don't always like people who just want to be sheeple or sheepwalkers. Last week when we were in California at this thing, people would come up and they'd say, all I want is a government job. I don't care what it is. Would you want to hire somebody like that?
No.
No. But that's what they think. That's how they think.
That means you don't know what you want to do.
So if you're an employer, you might have a great head housekeeper, right? But there's nothing wrong with having a backup.
That's right. There's always something in the works.
And you don't necessarily want to just hire people who say, all I want to do is be a maid. My ambition is just to be a maid. Okay, that's a wage slave type of thing. Okay, so don't think employers aren't interested in people who say, here's what I want, but they're applying for this position.
Yeah, but
If it's a good company, get the job. Get a job in a good company because they're always looking to move people up. Yes, Fred?
When we did the cover letter on Friday's test, I wrote, Dear Mr. Wright, I am sending you a copy of my resume. I would like to take the time to thank you for considering me for the opening
Blah,
of the
blah,
Deputy
blah.
Department. I am a hard worker and have been working in food service for the last 10 years. I will be an asset to your company through my past experience in this field. I'll be able to
What did you ask him?
make money and save money.
What are you asking him to do?
Okay, well, I started in the food industry as a bag boy and worked my way to assistant deli manager in 3 years.
Okay, cut.
Experience
Okay, the second sentence should have been your first sentence.
Okay, but what you were talking about, I told him I have experience in all areas of
I know.
business.
The thing is, he had to read through unimportant stuff in the beginning.
All right.
But she's not gonna do
He already knows that. Remember, time is a premium for anybody in HR. Okay, they got 500 resumes they got to get through. They got 100 of them they have to read. They got to interview these people. They're not interested in the flowery, hi, thank you for letting me present my resume because they're not interested in that. They're just interested in the meat and potatoes. And you did a good job on the meat and potatoes. What template did you get that from?
I created myself.
Good answer. Okay.
Can I just say that the first time I heard all this stuff about the employment planning, how quickly to get through the resumes, I was thinking this hasn't got shit to do with me, and I don't believe it. I'm not buying into it.
Yeah.
But after being here long enough, and I'm just saying this for everybody's benefit that's new,
Yeah.
it all gels together, and it's true. It's all true shit.
Okay, it's true shit. So we're going to close on that. Okay, everybody, we will pick this up tomorrow. Thank you in California. And, well, I'm going to start by answering your questions tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Director, now were we supposed to, like, maybe change the name on that file and put it in our drive?
Yeah.